Okay, so the moon is really, it's a lot of things, but the main things that you can learn from your moon in astrology are two things. So the moon is your needs and your emotional reactions. Okay, so the sign of the moon is going to tell you the kind of reactions and the kind of needs that you have, and the house in the chart is going to tell you where you're going to demonstrate those needs most and what kinds of things you're going to need surrounding you, basically, to make you feel your best. Because that moon is so essential to keep healthy, because at the end of the day, it is the most basic, like the most basic part of yourself, the moon. Even though the sun is like your ego drive of what you want to be recognized for and things that you hope to achieve in life and your recognition and the way that you express yourself, your moon, I like to think of your moon as like the kind of little baby that you are. Because the moon, you know, the moon is actually the mother. It doesn't necessarily represent babies, but it also does, because without a mother, you can't have a baby, and without a baby, you can't have a mother. So the moon basically tells you what kind of little baby you are. So keep that in mind when you watch this video. So if you have a moon, I'm going to be looking at my notes from time to time. So when you have an Aries moon, your reactions are going to be very fast, because Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is a very quick, fiery planet. So if your moon is in that cardinal fire sign of Aries, then your reactions are going to be instant. You're that type of person that has like instant reactions to insults or to somebody telling you something off-putting. You can't really hide it because they're so visible. Aries is a very visible sign, and your reactions are also going to be very passionate. Okay, and your emotional reactions, Aries moon, can also be seen as self-interested or selfish, because Aries, of all the signs, I like to call Aries like the little baby, you know, because they are so innocent and pure, and everything that they say is just completely coming from their gut. There's no artifice to them. They're not pretentious. They just are very direct. And when your moon, that very vulnerable part of yourself, is in the sign of Aries, then your reactions are going to be instant. They're going to be very frank. They're going to be direct and to the point, okay? And this isn't like, Aries doesn't like to be a little baby. Aries likes to be very tough. It's a fire sign, and they are very tough, but at the same time they are very sensitive, and people forget that because they have that that happy-go-lucky exterior and that tough exterior, but that toughness also does come with a lot of sensitivity, especially if it's in the moon. So now let's talk a little bit about Aries moon's needs. So there are a few things that everyone needs, and this becomes especially important when you're looking at relationships and what you're going to need to have in a relationship in order to be satisfied. Later on, I'll be making specific videos that talk about dating specifically for the moon signs, but for today, we're just going to keep it basic, right? So in a relationship or in general, you're going to need passion, because like I said, Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is a very passionate planet. It is basically essentially just passion and drive. So Aries people need passion. The thing that they hate the most is somebody who's going to ignore them, and not ignore them like as part of a game, but actually ignore them, like not acknowledge them, because fire demands to be seen, and especially that very fiery Aries sign. It is the most fiery of them all, you know. It is the biggest flame, and then it gets controlled in Leo, and then Sagittarius, it's just like the remnants of the more mature fire. So Aries, being the most potent of those fire signs, they demand attention. So they really hate cold responses, or like somebody who's just like, oh, I don't care, whatever. Like think of Libra, and how Libra is very like tepid or measured in their responses. The opposite of that. So Aries moon people would really absolutely hate arguing with somebody who's just like, okay, whatever. Think of how a Libra would respond. Libra is always very gracious, and like I said, like tepid. They're very lukewarm in their responses, or they'll give you no response at all because they don't want to upset you. Aries likes that fire. They almost like arguing and fighting, and they, like I said, they really need that passion to, like, it keeps them going. So along those same lines, they really need autonomy because their archetype is the trailblazer, and they really need to be able to go their own way. They're going to need freedom to express themselves and to do whatever it is that they want to do. And for that reason, Aries moon people, or just Aries in general, get like labeled as like, oh, they're being selfish, or they're this or they're that. But really, if you really whittle it down to what Aries is, they're the trailblazer. They're the opposite of Libra. So Libra is we and Aries is me. They really can't help it. They are just very in tune with their wants and their desires because they're ruled by Mars. And like I said, Mars is like that animal, passionate side of yourself. It's like your gut. I really like to think of Mars as your gut. So they're ruled by the gut, essentially, right? Well, the moon is also the gut. So, I mean, think about it. So a Mars moon person or a Mars and Aries person, they're just very much driven by their most basic desires and needs. So they're going to need excitement for that same reason that they are a very passionate sign. They're going to need that passion, that excitement. They're not like Taurus, who needs like stability and just groundedness. No, they need the opposite of that. They need new things that are going to stimulate them, and you have to keep them on their toes. Like, I really like Gemini for Aries. They also need to learn their own lessons. They're not the type of person that you could talk to them and be like, oh, like, listen to my experience. You don't want to do this. You don't. No, they need to go their own way and they need to be able to make their own mistakes. That's so important for Aries people because they're very visceral and they're not like cerebral, right? They're not just going to be thinking like, oh, let me think about that. Let me think about what he said. Oh, no, they need to actually experience it for themselves and feel the pain and feel the suffering themselves in order to learn something. And they can be kind of hard-headed, so sometimes it'll take them a long time to actually learn a lesson, if they ever do. But don't even try to tell them what to do because it's not going to work. They need to learn the lesson themselves. And that is true for all fire signs, but more so for Aries. Sometimes they need to fight and yell. This is the kind of sign, especially the moon, that is going to need to yell. So Aries moon is really going to be that type of person that just needs to yell. And like I was saying this earlier, I was saying that there's really a difference between somebody who curses at you and tells you mean things and like berates you to try to make you feel bad. There's a difference between that and somebody who's just like, ah, where are my shoes? You know, like Aries people just really need to yell sometimes because they have so much passion. And they just really need to get it out sometimes when they get angry. Not only that, but Aries people, especially Aries moon, because the moon is the needs and the reactions, they need to fight sometimes. They need to fight it out because they're not the type of person that is going to be okay just letting things sit or just letting things be unsaid. No, they're going to immediately, like, whatever is bothering them or whatever you did that upset them, they're going to tell you immediately, and they need to be free to do that. And you need to be okay with that because that is just what they're going to do, and they need to do that in order to feel okay. Because remember, the moon is the needs. You can't take away people's needs, and you can't change their needs. They're always going to be there, and they're always going to be the same. So what else? Okay, and the last thing is, in terms of relationships, I like to look at the opposite sign. So the opposite of Aries being Libra, I do feel that Aries needs a partner that could show them how to yield sometimes. Because Aries is used to just getting their way and doing what they need to do to meet their own needs and just doing their Aries thing. Well, they need somebody, a partner who's going to balance them and show them that it's okay to yield sometimes, that it's okay to give in and to kind of do the Libra thing and just balance things out between you and your partner. That is important for them to be able to learn and appreciate through a partner. And that's what I think Aries moon needs.